by Victims Advocate for the West Midlands and representatives of the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner. We're also joined by members of the public and the media, and thank you very much for taking the time to attend today. It is very much appreciated. There are times allocated to the agenda items, and I'll be having regard to these in the interests of an effective and efficient meeting and to ensure that we complete the meeting within the time allocated. As a consequence of the importance of item 3 on the agenda that relates to Operation Park Mill, I've taken the decision to dispense with 3 of our standing agenda items. So there will be no PCC update or Chief Constable update and no questions from the board to the Chief Constable. It's important that I mark today is Holocaust Memorial Day. On Friday, 23rd of January, I was pleased to be able to attend Dudley's Holocaust commemoration. That was a deeply moving event. Holocaust Memorial Day is marked each year on the 27th of January, the date on which Soviet troops liberated the largest Nazi concentration camp, Auschwitz-Birkenau, in 1945. The Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, a charity established and funded by the UK government to promote and support Holocaust Memorial Day in the UK, has described the day's focus as follows. The Holocaust is central to Holocaust Memorial Day, when we remember the 6 million Jewish men, women and children who were murdered and the millions more murdered under Nazi persecution. We also learn and commemorate where persecution led in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia and Darfur. The Holocaust Memorial Day Trust encourages remembrance in a world scarred by prejudice and systematic targeted persecution. Acting Chief Constable, I understand that you want to add to my reflections on Holocaust Memorial Day briefly.
Commissioner, like you, I would like to... Apologies. Commissioner, thank you. Like yourself, I would like to pay my respects today, remembering and rightly honouring victims and survivors on International Holocaust Memorial Day. There will be senior representatives attending a number of commemorative events taking place across the West Midlands this week. And if this meeting had not been taking place today, Commissioner, of course, we would all be in events today as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Acting Chief Constable. Agenda item 1 is apologies. We do not have any apologies. Are there any further apologies to be provided this morning? I don't see anybody indicating. There are no further apologies to be recorded. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is notes of the last meeting. Are there any matters arising from the notes of the last meeting on Tuesday, 16th of December 2025? If not, then they are agreed. There were no actions arising from the notes of the last meeting. Agenda item 3 is Operation Park Mill. I acknowledge, recognise and understand the significant strength of feeling that is shared by many people, including myself, in connection with matters arising from the decision of the Birmingham City Council Safety Advisory Group dated 16th of October 2025, based on the recommendation of West Midlands Police to ban away fans supporting Maccabi Tel Aviv from attending the football match against Aston Villa on the 6th of November 2025. And that includes our Jewish community and people and communities in the West Midlands, whether or not they agreed with the ban or they disagreed with the ban. My immediate response to that decision was to call for a review and the convening of a special Safety Advisory Group meeting at the earliest possible opportunity to reconsider the decision. It's not my intention to rehearse all that has happened since the decision of the 16th of October to the present day, because many, if not all of you, will have been following what has taken place. However, I refer to the most recent and significant events that include the Home Secretary's announcement in the House of Commons that she no longer had confidence in the former Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, the publication of the HMIC letter setting out the preliminary views of the Chief Inspector of Constabulary, It's worth noting that this does not constitute the final report, and the Chief Inspector's views might therefore develop or change. My immediate commencement of preparation of the process that would have enabled me to dismiss the Chief Constable, the retirement with immediate effect of the former Chief Constable, and I will say more on the subject of retirement or dismissal at the conclusion of this agenda item. My appointment of former Deputy Chief Constable Scott Green as the acting Chief Constable, my referral of the former Chief Constable to the Independent Office of Police Conduct and the IOPC exercise of its power of initiative, and West Midlands Police's referral relating to West Midlands Police officers to independently investigate and determine if any officer or staff member may have a case to answer for misconduct. The IOPC will now undertake a full assessment of the evidence and gather more where necessary to establish if any of the officers may have breached police professional standards in relation to duties and responsibilities. The areas relevant to the IOPC's investigation will include the quality and accuracy of the information provided by West Midlands Police to the Safety Advisory Group, particularly that provided on the 24th of October 2025, the use of AI for the purposes of obtaining intelligence for inclusion in the report, consideration of the record keeping or lack of by individual officers, and the assertions made about the consultation with local Jewish community groups. I welcome the apology that's been provided by the Acting Chief Constable on behalf of West Midlands Police, and I know that he will want to repeat that today. We await the outcome of the Home Affairs Committee report that is expected in February. The Acting Chief Constable and I have already met on 5 occasions to discuss the actions that the force must take to rebuild trust and confidence, including addressing the significant matters identified in the letter from HMIC. We are committed to working together to prevent and tackle crime, bring offenders to justice, promote the rights and welfare of victims, and ensure the safety and security of the people and communities of the West Midlands. I'm looking forward to hearing from the Acting Chief Constable in connection with the plans he has as part of Operation Strive. The strategic aim of Operation Strive will be to restore the trust and confidence that the public have in West Midlands Police and learn the lessons from how the force responded to the fixture. Acting Chief Constable Green is taking personal responsibility for this operation as the Gold Commander. That is essential because without trust and confidence in our police force, it is not possible to ensure that policing is with the consent of the people or to have an effective and efficient police force. Acting Chief Constable Green will be updating us on the objectives and detail within Operation Strive during the course of the meeting. However, one of my statutory duties is to hold the Chief Constable and West Midlands Police to account on behalf of the people who have elected me, and that is the primary purpose of today's board. Part of the process that's required if trust and confidence is to be rebuilt is for West Midlands Police not only to be held to account, but to be seen to be held to account. The HMIC process is of course important. However, it is a national body. The Home Affairs Select Committee is of course important. However, it sits in Westminster and no West Midlands MPs sit on it. Today is about local democratic accountability, and local democratic accountability matters. West Midlands Police must acknowledge with candour the significant concerns and shortcomings that have been laid bare in recent weeks. West Midlands Police must confront and face up to the significant concerns and shortcomings that have been laid bare in recent weeks. West Midlands Police must identify, understand and take ownership of the significant concerns and shortcomings that have been laid bare in recent weeks. That has caused harm to West Midlands Police as an organisation, but more importantly, it has caused harm to the people and communities that it exists to serve. On the 8th of December, I requested West Midlands Police to prepare a report to my Accountability and Governance Board today. That request set out 41 questions for the force to answer, and that report has been published on my website and it is before the board today. As a consequence of the referrals that have now been made to the IOPC in connection with the Chief Constable and other officers, I understand that there will be some matters in connection with which it might not be possible for West Midlands Police to provide full and frank answers so as not to prejudice the IOPC investigation. I'm also mindful that I am the appropriate authority in relation to the former Chief Constable. My role in connection with any disciplinary proceedings that might follow and the need not to prejudice any ongoing investigation. However, please rest assured that I will be putting as many questions and raising as many concerns that I am able to do in the time available. I have many questions that I intend to put to Acting Chief Constable Green. I therefore ask that, as far as possible, the answers are provided concisely so as to ensure that we're able to address all of the relevant matters of concern during the course of the time that we have available to us. The West Midlands Police report is to be presented by Acting Chief Constable Green, and I'm asking that the presentation please be kept to no more than 10 minutes because board members will have had an opportunity to read the paper. It's available to members of the public and media to read, and so as to importantly maximise the opportunity for questions and discussion of the issues arising from the report. So, Acting Chief Constable, can you please present the report?
Commissioner, good morning. I'd like to start with an opening address from me, and then the Temporary Deputy Chief Constable will open the report, both of which will be done within the 10 minutes. So, Commissioner, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to update yourself and attendees on the immediate actions that I have taken since you appointed me as the Acting Chief Constable just over a week ago. I again start by paying my respects to today, remembering and rightly honouring victims and survivors of International Holocaust Memorial Day. I would like to start by reiterating my full and sincere public apology that I gave on day one of my appointment. The failings identified by His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary and Fire and Rescue Services in their preliminary reviews reported to the Home Secretary in relation to our planning, policing and subsequent response to the Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv football match are damning. A direct impact of our actions has been a loss of trust and confidence from the public of the West Midlands. More specifically, I know we have damaged our relationship with individuals and Jewish communities, locally, nationally and internationally. It personally saddens me to hear of the damage that this has caused to our relationships with the public. Last Tuesday, I listened to members of the public reflect upon the personal impact that the events of recent weeks have had on them, the upset that people have felt and the strength people have shown through these difficult times. I praise the resilience and courage of these individuals and thank them for their honesty and candour in sharing their experiences with me. Our response to criticisms of the force, including our reaction to the Home Secretary's statement to Parliament, has been too defensive. I am committed to West Midlands Police learning from these events, but most importantly, taking immediate action. This will be focused on repairing the damage which has resulted in the loss of confidence that the public and diverse communities have in us. The public losing confidence in policing undermines the core principles of British policing. We will now work tirelessly to restore that trust, ensuring that we work with the public to prevent crime and police without fear or favour. Recognising the significant impact that events have had, I, on taking up the position of Acting Chief Constable, declared this a critical incident for the force, ensuring the absolute due focus and attention we need to bring. I am greatly aware that the public perception of how matters concerning West Midlands Police planning for the fixture have been veiled in ambiguity and potentially inaccurate information. I am therefore unequivocally committed to ensuring I come here today being as clear and transparent as I can. To demonstrate this transparency, on my first day in office as Acting Chief Constable, I directed that a voluntary referral be made to the IOPC. Subsequent to this IOPC referral, they have decided to use their power of initiative to call in the matter and independently investigate to determine if any officer or staff member may have a case to answer for misconduct. Information relating to the planning, policing and response have on occasions developed at pace, and therefore individuals may well have provided details based on what they knew at the time. Having requested the IOPC investigate, I am very mindful that there may be matters which at this time I am not able to comment on, and to avoid the risk of any prejudice to that investigation. There may be details which become apparent as a result of the IOP's detailed investigation, which I am not privy to today. Neither temporary Deputy Chief Constable Mattinson or I were engaged operationally in any or of the relevant decision making in connection with this matter, other than our liaison with the IOPC. We will both bring fresh perspective and fresh eyes. Commissioner, your Accountability and Governance Board is an integral part of your role in the PCC public holding the force to account. Both myself and the temporary Deputy Chief Constable will do our utmost to assist you in bringing transparency and candour to these matters for the benefit of the public that you and I serve. I know that the actions of our force have negatively impacted on the trust and confidence the public of the West Midlands have in us, and this is something of significant concern to me. Moving at pace during my first week, I've already met with a number of people, including many individuals from the local West Midlands Jewish communities and the policing minister. To all, I have again reiterated my apology for the damning impact of the events and had positive discussions on how, as a force, we will now strive to restore the trust and confidence of the public. Last week we launched Operation Strive, which will be the overarching policing response to coordinate the effective response to drive forward the action and changes needed. This will be a wide-ranging initiative, and a number of work streams of activity are underway. A full and comprehensive action plan is now being developed for this and will be delivered by temporary Deputy Chief Constable Mattinson. This work will focus on growing our cultural competence, ensuring open dialogue, building authentic connections, investing in community relationship, and ensuring each and every member of our workforce is accountable and cognizant of the biases while being role models for equality. It's important to remind the public that we are a force that is performing extremely well. Our officers, staff and volunteers have collectively worked really hard to get West Midlands Police to the place it is today, as being one of the best in the country for responding to the public, reducing crime and bringing offenders to justice. This week we expect to see the latest release of national data, and this will reinforce just how well the force is doing. I have directed the workforce to focus their attention on continuing to improve our service to the public, striving to the very best we can and doing even more to protect the public, as this is rightly the service they deserve. This remains about us doing the right thing, aligned to the code of ethics, showing courage, respect and empathy, and providing the very best public we can without fear or service to the public. I am passionate about keeping the public safe. This is why I joined as a police officer 3 decades ago. I want to always be proud of the privileged position I hold as a serving officer, and I want each and every member of our workforce to feel that pride too. This only comes from knowing we're delivering a service that the public are proud of and that they have trust and confidence in. During the coming days and weeks, West Midlands Police will continue to rapidly progress a range of work under Operation Strive. We will continue to focus on protecting the public of the West Midlands and improving our services, and we've done relentlessly during the recent years. I look forward to providing you, Commissioner, and the public with regular updates on our successful progress of this. Thank you again for this opportunity to update you today. And Commissioner, I'll just hand over to the DCC who will open the paper, if that's okay.
Thank you. In view of time, can you please limit your comments to 5 minutes, please? That'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Certainly. Morning, Commissioner. So the paper starts us off with a chronology that sets out the key meetings and milestones which occurred during the preparation of the policing operation for Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv. This became known as Operation Park Mill. On the 30th of August 2025, the fixture was announced, with kick-off scheduled for 8 p.m. on Thursday, the 6th of November. The timeline in the paper shows progress through the planning, with the appointment of key commanders, the creation of threat assessments and strategies, as well as the 3 Safety Advisory Group meetings, known as SAG meetings, which took place on the 7th, 16th and 24th of October last year. It was the SAG meeting held on the 16th of October which made the decision to reduce the away fan ticket allocation to 0. The paper then explains the role of the SAG, early actions taken by the force to plan and prepare for the fixture, before setting out how football fixtures are risk assessed. The Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv fixture was always assessed as high risk. The paper then outlines that our initial working assumption was that Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters would attend the fixture, and goes on to detail the planning activity that was carried out, such as the annual leave embargo for the 6th of November, together with the contact with the Metropolitan Police to discuss coordination of the policing operation in relation to travelling fans. The paper then has detail of the Teams meeting, which took place on the 1st of October between the Force Bronze Commander and Dutch Police, and we accept that this meeting should have been recorded with intelligence properly assessed and managed. We should also have made contact with police forces in other countries which had previously hosted matches involving Maccabi Tel Aviv away fans. The paper moves on to describe the role of the UK Football Policing Unit and how the force worked with them in order to try and obtain further information to assist us with the planning. It then outlines some detail regarding community engagement, and we make an apology here that our engagement with the local Jewish community was not started early enough. The issue of the use of AI is then addressed, particularly with reference to the inclusion of a match between West Ham and Maccabi Tel Aviv. This false detail was included in the SAG document dated the 23rd of October 2025. We have now begun a review into the force's use of and policy regarding AI, and the acting Chief Constable has blocked all access to Microsoft Copilot on force systems until further notice. The paper outlines the communication with the Home Office and the offer from them on the 17th of October of further funding to help accommodate away fans. The paper then details the commissioning of a peer review, which found that the decision to ban away fans was reasonable, but that the effectiveness of that decision had been reduced due to the high-profile commentary which had seen opposing positions becoming entrenched. The paper concludes by outlining that the policing requirement and the scale of the operation, had all away fans attended, was estimated at around £5 million. Then finally, we have outlined steps taken to re-establish the trust and confidence of the public, particularly the local Jewish community. This will now be known as Operation Strive, which will coordinate our response to recover from these events and rebuild the confidence of the public. I'm pleased to say that we have already implemented a decision for all anti-Semitic hate crime to be investigated by a detective, and have committed to force-wide anti-Semitism training and begun meeting with a range of stakeholders and faith groups to ensure that we implement learning from this operation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Acting Chief Constable and Temporary Deputy Chief Constable, for that opening. Much appreciated. So, we'll come to questions. Now, the West Midlands Police report that has been published and is available to everyone on my website makes some welcome concessions and does acknowledge some serious concerns and shortcomings, including evidence having been overstated, a failure to engage early enough with the local Jewish community. There should have been contact made with police forces in other countries. The meeting with the Dutch police on the 1st of October should have been recorded. A lack of adequate internal regulation relating to the use of AI. All of that is welcome, but there are many more issues, matters and questions that need to be put during the course of this session available to us this morning. So I will start with the build-up to the decision of the Birmingham SAG on the 16th of October 2025. Now, we're told that an elaborate command structure is established under the title Operation Park Mill, and that includes gold, silver, bronze commanders, experienced and accredited staff with thematic responsibilities, with the involvement of the Operation Planning Department. We're told that West Midlands Police has extensive institutional experience of planning and preparing for major events. The authorised professional practice was to be adhered to, with public order, public safety and POPs advisors having benefited from the College of Policing course, with mentoring and relevant continuing professional development. The National Decision Model, which sets out the College of Policing 10 principles of risk and 6 core principles of public order, is available to review and adjust to response and threat assessment. The National UK Football Policing Unit risk assessment matrix is to inform decision making. And yet, despite all of that elaborate structure, ultimately the system fails. And the purpose of today is to consider some of the reasons why it failed so catastrophically, from the commencement of the operation on the 1st of September 25, leading to the HMIC preliminary letter dated 14th of January 26. On the 2nd of September, one of the first actions that takes place is for West Midlands Police to request team information from the National Football Intelligence Partnership through the UK Football Policing Unit, and that appears to be a pack with the Maccabi Tel Aviv team overview. What would that have consisted of? Was it received? Would it have included any intelligence about the team's fans and previous public order related matters? Was any regard had to this? And if not, why not?
Commissioner, thank you. It is common practice for European fixtures of this nature for those involved in the planning of it to seek intelligence from a variety of sources, which make specific reference to those teams. I'm conscious that this is the first question you've asked me, Commissioner, but the person that requested that is detailed within it. The flow of intelligence during this operation is likely, in my view, to form part of the IOPC investigation. It's important again to re-emphasise that in the search for both learning and transparency, it is me that on the first day made a voluntary referral. So it would probably be unwise of me to comment on what was in that documentation, how it was received and what happened to it. Firstly, because I don't know the answer to that, because I can't investigate what's happened myself, having done that referral. It's right for the IPC to do so. Secondly, I don't want to prejudice that investigation on behalf of the public.
The minutes of the very first Op Park Mill Gold on the 16th of September speaks of the Gold Commander having a low-risk appetite for a repeat of the disorder seen at the Aston Villa Leisure Warsaw match in 2024. Did this low-risk appetite and the experience of the Leisure Warsaw match prompt West Midlands Police to become too risk-averse in its approach to the fixture? Are you satisfied as well that the Gold Commander had the relevant training experience for a policing operation of this complexity and scale?
Commissioner, I'll answer the second bit of that question first, if I may. All public order Gold Commanders involved in, they're called POPSs, Public Order, Public Safety. Gold Commanders are trained by the College of Policing. They are assessed at the conclusion of that course on whether they are occupationally competent. To move on to be operationally competent, they then need to shadow experienced Gold Commanders, then be assessed as Gold Commanders themselves, and move on from there. All of the substantive Assistant Chief Constables in this force, and the temporary Deputy Chief Constable, and I, in my former role, are all trained and accredited Gold Commanders. And of course, this force has significant experience of policing both high-profile football matches and European football matches. So I'm satisfied that both Gold Commanders involved in the events are trained and accredited. In relation to the Legia Warsaw fixture, it's clear that we had significant disorder at that fixture. In relation to the comments of the Gold Commander that made those comments at the SAG meeting, again, it would be unwise and unfair of me to comment on, given the IOPC's investigation.
Was there any known suspected terrorist threat relating to the fixture? And if so, who was the target? And what was the suspected motivation of those involved? And what action, if any, was taken to identify and mitigate the threat?
Thank you, Commissioner. We are all aware within both the police service but also of members of the public that there is an underlying counter-terrorism threat throughout the UK to all major events. I can't comment in a public domain on the specifics of intelligence relating to counter-terrorism. More broadly, again, that will inform part of the decision-making that will be for those Gold Commanders to rationalise at some point in the future, both with the ongoing work of HMIC, but also it may be an area that HMIC consider when they look at the totality, the IPC consider when they look at the totality of the intelligence picture and flow.
Early intelligence reports include reference to local people arming themselves in preparation for the fixture. But what did Westminster Police take that to mean in terms of scale, level of threat, and with what purpose were people arming themselves? Was the intelligence actionable? Was anything done to pursue further lines of inquiry to identify the source of this intelligence, identify them, investigate the threat, and consider any arrest and charges? And if not, why not?
Commissioner, thank you. I, like you and many others, have seen both appearance of West Midlands officers at the Home Affairs Committee, and that is a question that came up and was answered by the former Chief Constable. As I've said at the outset, and I do want to remind you, and particularly the members of the public present, it is my intention throughout both this board, Commissioner, and our subsequent approach to answer every question with as much transparency and candour as I can. And I want to again emphasise that it is on my first day that I did a voluntary referral to the IOPC. But I want their investigation to not be prejudiced in any way in the answers that I give today, and to comment on that risks doing so. And so therefore, Commissioner, I can't. The other reason, and it's important again to emphasise this, is the reason that I can't is because it would be unwise, unfair and wholly inappropriate for the temporary Deputy Chief Constable and I to start inquiring into those matters and asking individuals who may or may not be in the future subsequent subject to the IPC investigation. That would be unfair and unwise to do so. It also risks prejudicing both them as individuals and, of course, the independence of the IPC investigation, neither of which I want to do, because I want that to be transparent on behalf of the public. So I can't really comment on that further, Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm now going to turn to the HMIC letter dated 14th of January. I had no prior knowledge as to the contents of that letter. I first had sight of it on the 14th of January. It identifies what it refers to as concerns and shortcomings, and it's my intention to take you through each and every one of those concerns and shortcomings. The HMIC report states, and it's important that I record this, the letter states, to be clear, I have found no evidence to support a view that anti-Semitism played any part in West Midlands Police stating that its preferred tactical option was to reduce to zero the ticket allocation to Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. The HMIC letter also records, however, in respect of any individual officers, the evidence I have seen doesn't point to their actions having been influenced by political interference, anti-Semitism, or other lack of impartiality or malign intent. However, turning to the concerns and shortcomings, at page 3, the Chief Inspector's letter states, however, I am concerned that in some respects the force either didn't fully appreciate or its response didn't demonstrate that it appreciated the extent to which national and international context would lead to far-reaching consequences if the fixture and wider associated events were not policed effectively. I'm not convinced that the force fully considered the consequences of its preferred tactical option. It focused on reducing the risk of short-term disorder and long-term damage to local community relations due to the presence of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. It lacked the necessary foresight to recognise the long-term global consequences. Is that accepted? If not, why not? And what's being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. So firstly, I also acknowledge the comments that the Chief Inspector has made, that he found no evidence that anti-Semitism had played a part in the preferred tactical option, nor the points about any individual acting in that way, and no evidence of malign intent. However, I will acknowledge and continue to acknowledge, as I did last Tuesday evening when I met with members of our Jewish community, that the impact of our actions has really damaged those relationships. So I don't want the force to be hiding behind those lines, because the impact of our actions has significantly damaged our relationships. And having spent the time listening to other people that very bravely shared their views with me, the impact of that was very clear. And I want to acknowledge that. In relation to the points that the the Chief HMI makes in his letter, firstly, I accept the contents of it in its entirety, because it is about organisational failure. One of the things that you may ask us about later, but which I'm clear on, is we had not conducted a community impact assessment. Now, equality impact assessment. There is evidence within the documentation, both within the Gold Strategy, within the Silver Tactical Plan and other documentation, where our duties under the Equality Act have been considered. But actually, a much broader equality impact assessment would have considered many of those issues and would have been perfectly preventable. And so one of the actions that we have already taken is, prior to the publication of this report, is to undertake an organisational learning review within our Ops department, and this will be part of it, to mandate in all these sets of circumstances that we undertake an equality impact assessment, because had we done so, it is much more likely, I can't say for certain, it is much more likely that we would have considered these impacts, both locally, nationally and internationally, and that is very clearly an organisational failure, which I take responsibility for ensuring that we fix.
Thank you, a matter to which I will return later. Again, at page 3, the Chief Inspector states, it's also clear that Westminster Police sought and obtained additional information about other Maccabi Tel Aviv fixtures, but I note that Westminster Police spoke only to Dutch police. It appears that the force didn't speak to policing counterparts in other jurisdictions where Maccabi Tel Aviv had more recently played European fixtures. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. Firstly, yes, it's accepted. So in the preparation of plans for all football matches, and particularly football matches of this risk level, we could, of course, should have spoken to as many of the host cities, host football clubs and host nations where Maccabi Tel Aviv had played previously, and we didn't do so, so organisationally we accept that. Our liaison with European football clubs is through the UK Football Policing Unit, and outside of that we would go through the Foreign Office. I think it's clear that organisationally we didn't make enough attempts to do so. We are again building that into our response, initially through an organisational learning review, but it will be one of the many strands under Operation Stride to ensure, firstly, it doesn't happen again, and secondly, we have already made the immediate change that all meetings online in this nature with law enforcement colleagues from other countries overseas will always be recorded, and we've already made that change.
At page 4, the Chief Inspector states, however, on 10th of October 25, the Westminster Police Gold Commander at that time wrote a letter to the chair of the SAG. That letter contains some statements that are inaccurate. It also contains a lack of balance regarding the behaviour of different groups in Amsterdam. It appears that on 24th of October 25, the Silver Commander, with approval from the most senior level of the force, repeated these inaccurate statements in a written report to the SAG. That report also contains further inaccuracies. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
Commissioner, I have accepted on behalf of West Midlands Police that organisationally the force overstated some of the evidence, as the HMIC has pointed out. Specifically in relation to that paragraph, I have made the decision to voluntarily refer some senior officers in the force to the IOPC, and it is in the public domain that you have referred the former Chief Constable. For those reasons, given the way that that paragraph is worded, I don't think it would be wise or fair on the transparency of the IOPC's investigation for me to comment further on that.
At page 4, the Chief Inspector states, the Force's 16th of October 25 oral briefing didn't repeat the inaccuracies of the 10th of October 25 letter, and it didn't include the same lack of balance. It also didn't introduce the further inaccuracies that appeared in the 24th of October 25 report, but those inaccuracies would of course have been in the Gold and Silver Commanders' minds when they decided to recommend the Force's preferred tactical option. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure there is no repetition?
I think one of the things that's clear, Commissioner, is our reporting to the Safety Advisory Group forms what's probably best described as Word documents. They're written documents. Firstly, they're not protectively marked as they should be. And it would seem, in my mind, and again, I re-emphasise the point that I have not inquired into these matters because it would be inappropriate to do so when there's an ongoing investigation. But information that's known to me today is that our reporting was not protectively marked and had not necessarily been produced as in either intelligence products or threat assessments and the opinions of the commanders. It's not clear what they are. And that was part of the exchange of letters that I had already had with the IOPC in my former role as a Deputy Chief Constable to inform them that we would be undertaking an organisational learning review to address those. The Force position will change. We will be much clearer and much more prescriptive on the documentation that we share with safety advisory groups to understand that what's being used to inform them, what that chain of intelligence and or threat assessment that sits behind them, and that they're protectively marked. And of course, the HMIC position at the moment is this is an interim letter. It forms part of a broader review that they are doing of safety advisory groups across the country. We will build their findings into the work that we're underway to ensure that we are giving a much more clear and consistent view to safety advisory groups in the future.
At page 4, the Chief Inspector states, in this letter I conclude that there was an imbalance in the weight of evidence that Westminster Police presented to the SAG in respect of the previous behaviour of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans. I have formed the view that confirmation of bias in relation to the anticipated behaviour of Maccabi Tel Aviv fans and the potential disorder their presence might cause influenced both the content and strength of assessments Westminster Police gave to the Safety Advisory Group. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure there is no repetition?
Commissioner, thank you. My answer is probably very similar to the last one. So, organisationally, I accept the overstating of the evidence, as the HMIC have pointed out. Part of the reason for accepting that is the HMIC have looked in detail at all the documentation and have spoken to all of the commanders involved in that. The Chief Inspector of Constabulary is very clear in his letter that he's not making a judgment on conduct, he's making organisational points, and I accept the organisational findings. Again, to address it, we've got work ongoing that will sit under Operation Strive to ensure that consistency of our input into safety advisory groups and other similar fora going forward. I won't comment on the individual officers that have prepared or made judgments because it would be unfair of me to do so.
At page 5, the Chief Inspector states, however, I am concerned about the accuracy of the written report that Westminster Police gave the chair of the SAG for the meeting on the 24th of October 25. These inaccuracies included the following. The most recent match Maccabi Tel Aviv played in the UK was against West Ham United in the UEFA Europa Conference League group stage on 9th of November 2023. The police response saw 5,000 officers deployed over a number of days. Over 200 of the 2,800 Israeli fans who travelled to the November 24 Ajax fixture were linked to the Israeli Defence Forces. The day before the Ajax fixture saw approximately 500 to 600 Maccabi fans apparently intentionally targeting Muslim communities. The 500 to 600 Maccabee fans tearing down Palestine flags. The 500 to 600 Maccabee fans committing serious assaults on Muslim taxi drivers. The 500 to 600 Maccabee fans throwing innocent members of the public into the river. Several Dutch police officers were injured during the sustained confrontation. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. In relation to point number one, Maccabi Tel Aviv against West Ham United, we know as a matter of fact that that match did not take place. We know, and the force have acknowledged, that that came from an AI hallucination. That formed firstly part of our referral to the IOPC, so that matter is now being investigated by them. The former Chief Constable brought that to the attention of the Home Affairs Committee in writing, and as you heard from the Temporary Deputy Chief Constable and is covered in the paper, once this information came to my attention in a level of detail, on my first day in office, I turned off our use of co-pilots. So like all big organisations, we're moving to the latest version of Windows, which includes a full suite of Microsoft services, part of which is Copilot. Whilst I can't comment more broadly on it because of the nature of the investigation, I have turned off access to it until further notice. In relation to the 5,000 officers, I think we've stated publicly on a few occasions that is the professional summary of one of the commanders involved, and I won't comment further on that. In relation to all of the other points then that the Chief Inspector makes, I would make a couple of observations. Firstly, we do know that there was disorder at that fixture. It is a matter of record. There is footage of it. There was disorder at the fixture. It will be in the future for others to account on their individual assessment of the intelligence, the things that we were told by the Dutch police. What I accept on behalf of West Midlands Police is the judgment of HMIC that we have overstated the evidence placed before us without expanding on those individuals' points, and that was subsequently shared with the Safety Advisory Group and others.
At page 6, the Chief Inspector states, also, the 10th of October 25 letter from the West Midlands Police Gold Commander to the chair of the SAG refers to Maccabee Tel Aviv fans at the Ajax fixture setting fire to Palestinian flags. From our interview of the Dutch police and from a letter from the Mayor of Amsterdam to the city's municipal authority, we understand there was only one report of a person attempting to set fire to a single Palestinian flag. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. In terms of the systemic level, hopefully I've answered that in the way that we're going to be recording intelligence, particularly where we're meeting with law enforcement colleagues from overseas. I can't comment on what either the Dutch police or the Mayor of Amsterdam have said. That is a matter for them. And similarly, as I've said throughout this board meeting, given that we have done the voluntary referral to the IOPC and that they are now conducting an independent investigation, it will be for officers who may find themselves subjects of the IOPC investigation to account for their actions. It would be unwise in terms of the transparency that the public require from that investigation for me to comment on it, and it would be unfair on the officers that are involved for me to comment on that bit further.
At page 6, the Chief Inspector states, my conclusion is similar to that of Lord Mann, who in his evidence to the Home Affairs Committee on 1st of December 25 said that the problem in Amsterdam had been greatly exaggerated. Regardless of any misunderstanding about what the Dutch police said, I have concluded that West Midlands Police overstated the extent to which the disorder at that fixture was attributable to the Maccabee Tel Aviv supporters. All of this leads me to conclude that confirmation bias in relation to the behaviour of the Maccabee Tel Aviv fans played a part in the way West Midlands Police reached its preferred tactical option and the strength with which it presented it to the SAG. In these circumstances, banning away supporters was a wholly exceptional decision. The recommendation of the SAG should have been subject to greater challenge and consideration within Westminster Police. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. As I said in an earlier answer, the Chief HMI and his team have had access to lots of documentation and have had the opportunity to speak with the commanders involved. For reasons that I've set out, I have not done that. It would be unwise of me to do so. I have not seen anything to disagree with his comment that organisationally we overstated the evidence, nor have I seen anything to disagree that organisationally some of that judgment was informed by confirmation bias. And it is for those reasons that as part of Operation Strive we will be addressing all of those systemic failures, and, as I said earlier, had we completed a comprehensive equality impact assessment, I think that would have given us the opportunity for some of those biases to be drawn out. We also have acknowledged, and the temporary Deputy Chief Constable concluded it covered it in her opening statement, I think we had much earlier dialogue, both with you and your office, Commissioner, but also real and meaningful engagement and consultation with Jewish individuals and members of our Jewish community. That would have allowed the force to be challenged more, to think through the consequences of those decisions. You know, the lessons that we've got to learn from that is in events similar to this, where we're impacting on specific individuals and communities, that a quality impact assessment is an essential tool, together with that engagement, because it allows us to reflect on it, the impact that we're having, and then where we're making those decisions, because you know, we may still make decisions that impact on one group more than another, but it needs to be much more informed and much more considered.
At page 7, the Chief Inspector states, I have further concern about the way Westminster Police handled intelligence material in respect of the written report that Westminster Police gave the SAG on 24th of October 25. I have found that not all of the information and intelligence in the report had passed through the force's dedicated intelligence structure, and the intelligence bronze commander wasn't involved in the report's preparation. As a result, the force didn't properly validate all the material it subsequently relied on. This is of significant concern, given that the SAG intended to use it for a wholly new consideration of the risk. The chair of the SAG had asked that information made available to the SAG to be robust and capable of carrying the weight which may be placed on it. I'm especially concerned about the way Westminster Police handled sensitive intelligence when it created and disseminated the 24th of October 25 report. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure there is no repetition?
Firstly, Commissioner, organisationally, yes, it is accepted. It's perhaps worth just reminding us all, Commissioner, that Westminster Police polices 3 million people. We record about 900 crimes a day. We arrest circa 5,000 people a month. We were the force that exited engaged status faster than any in recorded history. The force is performing really well and has really robust and effective intelligence structures. What's clear is the link between public order policing, so football and sporting events and protests are public order policing. What's clear is organisationally that link between public order policing and intelligence and our intelligence systems is not where we want it to be. That is part of the work that is taking place under Operation Strive. It's part of an organisational learning review that we had already conducted. And whilst not commenting on the performance or conduct of individuals, because for reasons I've set out that would be unwise to do so, that greater linkage within the command structure with an intelligence bronze commander, that flow of information, may have had a very different outcome. So I do think it's important to emphasise that the force is effective in the way that it manages and handles intelligence, because it does it every single day in very complex and sensitive matters. But that link between public order policing, the impact on communities of decisions like this, and intelligence is something that the organisation needs to learn from.
At page 8, the Chief Inspector states, I've also found that there were further shortcomings in West Midlands Police's approach to planning for and responding to the Aston Villa Maccabi Tel Aviv fixture. These shortcomings are in 4 fundamental areas: lack of effective local community engagement, imbalance in communications, poor record keeping and retention. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. So dealing with the first point, the lack of effective community engagement, I have accepted that organisationally. I accepted that in my first day in office. It's one of the many reasons why I issued an immediate public apology in my first day in office. And I repeat it again, being in this room with you, Commissioner, and with the Deputy Chief Constable Tuesday evening and last week, and listening to members of our local Jewish community on the impact that these events have had, the impact of our decision making. I'm absolutely clear that better local engagement from the very outset with both our local Jewish communities, but actually with a broader range of stakeholders, would have made a real difference. So I accept that, and that will be part of our learning for Operation Strive. Similarly then, the imbalance in communications is also therefore informed by that lack of communication, that lack of consultation. And had we done both of those things, we would have been able to communicate better. But actually the purpose, and it's worth re-emphasising, the purpose of the meeting that we had last Tuesday was not for me to communicate on behalf of the force, it was to listen. Communication is sometimes about listening. And you will recall, Commissioner, at the end of that meeting, whilst we received relatively positive feedback from the people that were present, one of the things that I was clear on is don't judge us on the words that we've said tonight, judge us on the actions that we take. And that's what I want the public to continue to do. And then the final thing is the record keeping and retention. I'm clear organisationally that there are things that we need to learn from and improve. It will form part of the comprehensive plan that will sit under Operation Strive. What I won't do is comment on the record keeping of individual officers involved in that process, because it wouldn't be fair for me to do so, given the ongoing IOPC investigation.
At page 10, the Chief Inspector states, given the wider context in which the fixture took place and the additional complexities that West Midlands Police was evidently aware of, I am concerned that the force didn't set up a sufficiently robust command structure during the planning phase. As I've set out, the consequences of not doing this led to shortcomings in intelligence handling, ineffective engagement with the local Jewish community, poor record keeping, and an imbalance in the force's communications. The shortcomings in the command structure were also apparent in the force's decision not to declare a critical incident, even after public concerns mounted. This is contrary to authorised professional practice. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
Thank you, Commissioner. This is my professional judgment. I'll be careful on my choice of words. Is that my professional judgment is that the Chief HMI at that point is commenting on the effectiveness of the command structure when he uses the word shortcomings, rather than the actual design of the command structure. So I won't comment on that in case that strays into the area that the IOPC subsequently pick up. Again, as somebody who was not involved in the command of the operation, I can't comment on the decision to or not to declare a critical incident. What I can say to you, Commissioner, and to the public that are present and watching online, is on my first day in office, I declared our response to this matter a critical incident.
At page 10, the Chief Inspector states, declaring a critical incident may also have prompted the force to explore special grant funding at an earlier stage. It is clear that West Midlands Police initially considered a range of tactical options to mitigate the risks associated with travelling Maccabi supporters, many of which were included in a report by Lord Mann. However, during the planning stage, certainty of such funding may have prevented the force from discounting the widest range of tactical options and allowed it to more fully explore the range of mitigations. Is that accepted? If not, why not? And what is being done at a systemic level to ensure that there is no repetition?
As I've said, Commissioner, I've declared a critical incident on my first day in office. Together with members of your office, I have been involved in many discussions with colleagues of the Home Office about special grants and special funding. My professional knowledge is it's quite complex. There are a number of hurdles to overcome to receive special funding. I don't know at this stage whether declaring a critical incident would have accessed that funding or not. I think that one is probably better for all of us to pause until the conclusion of the broader review that the HMI are undertaking in relation to safety advisory groups, because I do think it's an area of policy that needs thinking through about how forces might see access to that for significant events of this. So I don't really know what the answer to that one is yet, Commissioner. I think that is one that hopefully HMIC will comment on in more detail when they finalise their report.
At page 10, the Chief Inspector states, "The evidence I've seen so far suggests that these shortcomings are symptomatic of a force not applying the necessary strategic oversight and not paying enough attention to important matters of detail, including at the most senior levels. These things are surprising. Senior officers told us that they had recognised the fixture's wider significance. However, I'm concerned about an apparent lack of foresight in respect of the predictable repercussions of a number of their decisions, including, but not limited to, the force's recommendation to reduce the ticket allocation to 0. In this respect and others, my view is that the force could and should have prepared more effectively. Is that accepted? If not, why not? What is being done at a systemic level to ensure there is no repetition?"
Thank you, Commissioner. As you'll be aware, on my first day, I asked the IOPC to consider if there were any conduct matters for senior officers in this force. By that, I mean senior officers that sit under the direct control of me, which is chief officers, not including the former Chief Constable. You, Commissioner, as the appropriate authority for the former Chief Constable, did a voluntary referral to the IOPC. Given that is commentary about some of their involvement in this fixture, I think it would be wholly unwise in terms of the ability of the IOPC to conduct an investigation on behalf of the public, and it would be unfair on those officers for me to comment on it. They may or may not fall within the scope of that broader investigation the IPC are undertaking, but I think it's best until that investigation is concluded before I comment on that.
It's been widely asserted that the risks posed by those who wanted to target Maccabi Tel Aviv fans and the team were the greater risk. It's been asserted that Westminster Police downplayed this risk in its messaging to reduce the risk of increasing local tensions. Is that true? And would Westminster Police continue to justify that, or would Westminster Police accept that was a mistake?
I accept, on behalf of the organisation,